Welcome to the October edition of Shropshire Business Live TV. I'm Chris Pritchard here in the Yarrington studio. Carl Jones has been out and about across the county this month. We'll be catching up with him soon. We'll be going to the Shropshire Business Leaders Breakfast, which took place at the Shrewsbury Club during the ITF World Tennis Tour W100. Also, we head into the expo at Shrewsbury Town Football Club, which was hosted by Shropshire Chamber of Commerce. Victoria Charnley from B4 Shropshire will be joining me here in the studio. We're talking all things networking. And Carl catches up with one of the UK's leading economists who was in Shropshire to deliver his thoughts on the state of the economy. We'll hear from James Sproul from Handelsbanken and his colleague Sarah Rigby a little later. Plus, of all the latest Shropshire business news for you as well. First, though, let's head to the Shrewsbury Club, where the Shropshire Business Leaders Breakfast took place recently. Here's Paul McGillivray from Remote talking about why AI is going to be part of all our lives.
So I mentioned ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a large language model. For those of you who haven't yet used it, there's a free layer and then there's a paid layer, £10 a month, something like that, which has more advanced capabilities. You can talk to it, and it behaves as if it's a human because it's learnt language as if it was a human. The first experience that anyone has with a large language model, specifically ChatGPT, obviously Google has its own version, and there are various others, Anthropic and so on, is that it feels like it's alive. It feels like it knows what you're talking about, and it understands what it's talking about, and it seems to know a lot more than us too. That can be a little bit unnerving. And of course, these things aren't alive yet. And so I think it'll be really important to just talk about what's going on behind the scenes and how we can utilize that. But what is very clear is that the sci-fi that I grew up with, the Star Trek universe that we imagined as kids, is now. It's happening now. We can talk to our computers, they can respond, they can do jobs for us. You'll see how even the holodeck is a thing right now. And I find that really exciting. And I think it's also a massive, massive opportunity for us all. Back when, we'll talk about that in a minute actually. The reason why, Carl, I was really pleased you mentioned that stat. There's a certain percentage of people that are just like, this is not good, this is not good. It's because human beings, for tens of thousands of years, have lived a linear life. We assume that today is going to pretty much turn out how tomorrow did, and how yesterday did, and tomorrow will be the same. We assume that our days and weeks and months and years are going to be pretty much the same, with incremental improvements as we go on if we're lucky. That's the human way. That's the way it's been for tens of thousands of years. That's how evolution works. We don't notice the changes. They just kind of creep up on us. Computer technology, however, since the 60s, Gordon Moore, co-founder of Intel, he noticed that every time he released a new computer chip, it was twice as powerful as the computer chip that he released a year before. But the cost of creating those computer chips had halved, which meant since the 60s, computer power has been doubling every year. He thought that would go on for about 10 years, but actually it only slowed down around 2018 to about every 18 months. So we're going along day by day in a linear way, and computer power is doubling every year. Like if I got a chessboard and I got a grain of rice on the first chessboard, and every square on the chessboard had double the number of grains of rice as the previous square, by the time I got to the last chessboard, apparently, I haven't done the maths, but I've been told there would be more grains of rice on that one square than have ever been cultivated in human agricultural history. That's the power of the doubling effect. That's why we're in the chaos and amazement stage. Since the 60s, computer power has been doubling, so what it can do now is mind-blowing. And it seems like magic, but it's not magic, and that's what we need to understand. So why do these things seem like they're alive? And what about my job? You can't help but see the immense power of this coming for us and sweeping us away, but I'm also here to assure you that it's not out for your job necessarily. So, what's going on? I'm going to sweep away the image side of things, and I'm going to talk about the large language models, because most of us working in offices are going to be interacting with things like ChatGPT and the other large language models. And that, honestly, when you're talking to a computer and it's talking back and it's asking how you're doing and it seems to understand, that's the thing that's most unnerving. So I want to peel back the curtain. Large language models are based on vectors. Now, a vector is basically, imagine a 3D space, a little bit like latitude and longitude, but in 3D space. So every part in that space has a number that relates to where it is in that 3D space. Every word in a large language model has other words related to it set out in 3D space. The closer to the word that other word is, the more it relates. So take a cup of coffee here. You might have words like caffeine or warm or drink or Starbucks, and something like balloon would have nothing to do with coffee and therefore would be way far away. You get this sensation, and of course each of those words have their own vectors and their own words that are related to it. So if you bring in another word like tea, you'll probably find that coffee and tea are fairly close together, and they'll have lots of similar words like warm and wet and drink and Starbucks. But you'll also have words that don't quite relate to each other in other ways. So you'll have this kind of space like planets in a solar system. And when you bring in a word that's completely different, like hammer and nails, they've got their own ecosystem, and then the hammer is nowhere near as close as the coffee. That's what a large language model is doing. They fed in thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of text. And it started to understand the connection between words, cat and kitten and pet and dog and puppy, all in this space. Imagine every word in several languages all occupying this space. That's what a large language model is. Now, what's incredible is, I've got another example here. Large language models were created for translation. Okay, language translation. You can't, if you've done any kind of GCSE, I don't know, French or whatever, you can't just take a dictionary and swap a word out for the French version of it. It doesn't quite work. Go to German, the verbs are the wrong way around. It's all very confusing. So you can't just swap things out for translation. So they had to create a large language model so that it could understand context. Apple and apple, in my slides example, completely different things, but it's the same word. So the transformer model, it reads a whole swathe of text, and it looks at each word in turn, and it looks at the context and the words surrounding it, and so suddenly it has inferred context, and it has things that you've referred to previously and things you're probably going to refer to next. And by scanning this word, the large language model can very accurately predict what the most sensible next word in the sentence is going to be. And so when you're seeing an output from ChatGPT, it's just doing that over and over again. But the transformer models can have many, many, many agents doing this at once. So it's actually scanning words from lots of different points of view. And so suddenly we get these streams of text, and it feels like it knows me, and it feels like it knows way more than I know. And that's the magic. So that's what's going on when it comes to a large language model. Now, there's something called the Gartner hype curve. If you have a quick look at the slide here, every piece of technology that's ever invented has fired along the Gartner hype curve. So, first of all, it's launched, it's announced, everyone goes wild. Computers are going to change the world, right? The hype curve is way up. Suddenly you get the first computer. I mean, what can you do on it? You can play Pong. It's like, the 70s were pretty dull for computers, right? But gradually the technology starts to mature, and we go up what I love is the slope of enlightenment, and until eventually they level off, right? We've experienced this with computers, yeah? Oh, we're going to talk about Clark Kent, okay. It always comes down to Superman with me in the end. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes. So what we see here with this Gartner hype curve, every piece of technology is following it. So AI, Back in the 60s, we had HAL, 2001 Space Odyssey, all that kind of stuff. Wow, AI is going to be amazing. We're going to have these robots, C-3PO and all that in our houses. It's going to be amazing. Then, of course, it could do almost nothing. And we've had this really long slope of enlightenment, and now we're at that point where it's coming into our lives. Why is this important? Let's talk about Superman. I do recognise that I am showing my age by my actor choice here for Superman. Can we do a quick poll? Shout out, don't be polite. Clark Kent's superpowers. Go. X-ray vision, strength, flying. Come on, there's loads. Hearing, speed. One more. Super hearing. He's a nice guy, I like that one. Okay. Now, I've included this in every talk I've done since 2015, and not once has anyone ever said he's brilliant on Microsoft Word. No one has ever said he writes really polite but to the point emails. But he spends most of his days in the Daily Planet, at his computer, writing articles. Why is that? It's because Clark Kent's superpowers, the ones we really care about, have nothing to do with office admin, even though that's his day job. Lois Lane, on the other hand, is an incredible reporter and should be doing that stuff because those are her superpowers. But Clark Kent, we want him flying off and fighting Lex Luthor and doing all those amazing things. Each one of us is a superhero. We should all be flying in our careers. I would propose that almost none of us, when we entered our careers, entered those careers with the intention of doing admin. The admin is the means to the end. The admin is the thing we do so that we can get to and do the thing we want to do. And so far, Microsoft Word, writing emails, typing and all that kind of thing are the best way we've got of achieving those things. But imagine if we were all in our superpowers. Can you imagine how awesome we would be? How awesome would our offices be? I'm not just talking about the outfits. I'm talking about the things we could get done in the day. The kind of tools that are available right now, I'm not talking about available in the future, the kind of tools that are available right now promise to remove a good chunk of the admin from our days. Canva, creating graphics, a simple text, and it can create entire social media campaigns for you. Google Duet and also Microsoft Copilot, both are coming out in the next month or two. Take your entire Google Workspace suite or your entire Office suite, you can power it just with simple, natural language. If you have a quick look there on the screen, you'll see some of the things you can do. Instead of having to read an entire 20-person email thread, you can just get a summary of it. You can write a single, yes, okay, I'll do that, and it will write your email for you, so you don't have to worry about composing it. People just want to know what you think. They don't need to know how great you are at grammar. This is a mind shift that is going to take over everything we do in the office over the next year. This stuff is coming out next month. My workflow at the moment, a lot of my job involves scoping projects, okay, software projects. Generally, it takes me a week or two to do that until I brought AI right into the workflow. So now I run a 4-hour workshop. I record it on Zoom. I load the transcript into AI, which gives me a summary, the key points, the main requirements that the client wants. I bring that into ChatGPT, which extrapolates from the conversation a page for every single module I'm going to build in my piece of software. I then extract that out into a spreadsheet which sizes each particular feature and works out specifically technically what I need to do. Now it takes me a day to do one of those scopes if I'm stay focused. My client doesn't care that I used AI to do it. My client wants to know, how's this project going to work and how much is it going to cost me? They don't care how I did it. It's not the chances are. I know for sure that because I'm using AI, I actually don't forget stuff. I actually have more detail in my work. Now, it's really important to remember here that the aim is not to just go, yeah, go on AI, do that, I'm off to the beach. That's not how it works. But AI will probably get you 80% there. So the workflow I just described gets me the 80%. And then I and Jeannie go through it as humans, go through the writing, check the scope, check the sizing, check the costings. But that's the 20% left, which means we can do more of that. We can spend more time on the phone with our clients. We can spend more time with our team making sure that the quality is up to speed. Because my client doesn't care how long I spend writing that report. They just want the report. And that's the mindset, I think, is the mindset we should be bringing into our offices now. And that's why AI is Robin and not Batman.
I'm here to talk to you today about the Higher National Diploma Healthcare Professions Support. Higher National Diploma has been awarded HTQ status and has been designed against occupational standards within the NHS amongst other employers, meaning by completing the H&D you already have the requirements to enter the job of your dreams. The courses are aimed at adult learners aged 18 plus who have recently left education, completing qualifications in the healthcare field, or professionals working in the healthcare sector who are looking to upskill or change roles within their career. So a HTQ is an alternative progression route into higher education. The course costs are significantly reduced in comparison to full-time university fees, and the studying takes place locally on site at Telford College in our state-of-the-art healthcare academy. Students will be given a placement mentor who can support them with their role both in the hospitals or during placement and on site here at Telford College, with personalised learning plans tailored specifically for students' needs. There are also a range of careers available, such as occupational therapy assistant practitioners, operating department assistant practitioners, maternity care assistants, community care assistants, and prehabilitation and rehabilitation.
I love Telford College because it's very accessible to myself, and I also like the inclusive learning. So like for example, the hospital ward, because it helps everyone else like myself also understand what it will be like when you actually go out on placements. The teachers are very, very helpful. If you don't understand, they will re-go through it again. They will give you extra support.
We're in our virtual and augmented reality suite. We have software which is linked to all our curriculum areas, boasting some of the latest innovation, especially around the healthcare setting, where we worked with the NHS to develop some clinical scenarios. Our students can access all this technology in different ways. So through our immersive headsets, they can be immersed into these scenarios where they can get a real feel of what they're trying to learn. Caves where you can be immersed with multiple people in that scenario so it feels like you're actually there, through to a bit more augmented technology where it will help you guide you through different scenarios with teacher-led learning.
We have lots of different clubs and activities, things like driving theory, sign language clubs. There are also sports you can take part in, say recreational or competitive, and on-site facilities. We have a gym that students can use free of charge, 2 catering outlets that students can access, and of course Starbucks, which is discounted from high street prices.
Applying couldn't be easier. You can just go on our website, open an account and follow the simple steps. If you have any queries about any courses along the way, you can contact a member of our student services team, or alternatively you can visit one of our many open evenings and open events and you can chat to members of the staff.
You're watching Shropshire Business Live TV. Now it's time to head back to the Shropshire Business Leaders Breakfast, which took place at the Shrewsbury Club recently. We're going to be hearing from Tracy Dark now, who's going to give us a glimpse into how Shropshire could look in 2050.
Thank you for letting me speak this morning. I did have a 20-minute slot. The last time I spoke about this, it was 35 minutes, so I'll try and keep it tight. I've got less slides today. So some of the information I'm going to share with you is probably a little bit condensed down, but hopefully it'll give you a flavour of some of the things that we at Shropshire Council are starting to think about now. And we're very much in the here and now, aren't we? We've just heard about the beautiful historic place of Shropshire, which is really important. We also have a lot on our minds as well about things that are going on in the world. Very much here and now, and quite a lot of things to worry about. You know, winter's coming, cost of living crisis, all those things, all the wars going on around us. But, you know, there's something about just thinking ahead, thinking into the future. And, you know, whether that be 2050, 2070, 2100, and we've sort of mulled around where is the right sort of place to pitch this. We feel 2050 feels sort of reachable to everybody and something we can all relate to. So if we just sort of catapult ourselves into 2050, I'll probably share with you now some of the information and data that we're starting to gather. I'm not standing here today to say that I'm going to tell you exactly what 2050 looks like, because, you know, it's like jobs for then. We don't actually know what they are because they probably haven't even been invented yet. So I can't give you all the answers for the future. But what I'd like to do is just share some data and insights into information we've gathered and just let you have a little bit of a think about that. And maybe you start to think about how you can help and assist us in what we can do around changing the position. So it's very much what we call a policy off position. So it's without any interventions. And then it's for you and for us as communities to think about what that policy on might be, what those interventions might be for the future. I see we've got the big screen, so some of the information will be shared on that. So first of all, looking forward, as I've said, we've got some challenges here at the moment and challenges in the future. So we've got financial challenges. We've got uncertainty about what the future might look like, as I've explained some of the issues that we have that we're sort of thinking about and may project into the future. And nobody knew COVID pandemic was going to happen. And, you know, let's hope there isn't another COVID pandemic, but there may be. And how do we sort of deal with that and think about that? There's a need for pace as well. Life does feel like it's getting faster and faster, but, you know, we need to think about that pace for change. And the knock-on impact of current trends as well, and how that impacts on our thinking. And there are lots of opportunities with a T, by the way, sorry, spelling mistake there. But it's about how we join that planning up together as a wider community and shaping for future scenarios, thinking about what they might look like and can we adjust and change those going forward. And the whole new delivery models and partnerships. We can't do this together. I'm not standing here saying this is Shropshire Council's view of the world and this is what we're going to do, because we as wider communities need to come together and think about those different relationships we have. And certainly from Shropshire Council, we're starting to think much wider than our borders, much wider than our country even. And we're starting to set up relationships with, you know, Wales, with our partners Monmouthshire, Powys, Herefordshire, the cross-border work that we're doing, as well as other partnerships with our neighbouring authorities. So when we start to think about some of the information that we have, we've got, I'll just see the screen there. We've got more than, potentially by 2050, more than 61,000 extra people. When we think about the age of people living in Shropshire, we are an ageing population. And when we've started to project forward about, you know, plus 80-year-old people, we're looking at potentially another 48,000 people. Now, that brings into mind all sorts of implications, doesn't it, about, you know, the care system. It's already at breaking point. And what that means for us in Shropshire, as more people are moving into the area, more people are retiring to Shropshire, the pressures that starts to put on some of our infrastructure. We've also got 3,200, to be doom and gloom, 3,200 additional deaths by 2050. So that's an extra 62 a week. And that again plays into what we're seeing as an ageing population in Shropshire. One of the other interesting statistics we found was that for every 2 people that are dying, there's only 1 birth on average. So as we project that forward, you know, what does that look like? And there's quite a big dependency on migration into Shropshire. Again, the employment and labour force, something that you'll be particularly interested in. We've got additional people of the working age, around 11,800. But when we look at non-working people, we've got 3,700 between the age of 0 to 15 and 44,500 over 65. So all of a sudden you start to see that economic impact really that we may want to be concerned about, and how can we sort of intervene into that and try to bring more people in, that working population, but also think about why that's happening, why are young people moving out of Shropshire and coming back later in life to bring up their families and retire here. So how do we keep people in Shropshire, and how do we develop their skills and ambitions here to stay here in the first place? Again, when we think about housing, number of households 2021, 189,000, 39,000. Number of households to 2050, we've got 179,000. So not a surprise really when we start to project forward. So we have the local plan at the moment to 2038, which is to just over 30,000 houses. As we take it forward, looking at about 40,000. So that's just sort of that straight line. But what again is interesting is projecting forward potentially 18,000 more single person households, which is significant. Again, when we look at accessibility to homes and adjusting buildings for disabled people, about 13% of our households will require wheelchair access, for example. When we're thinking about the environment and the utilities and that whole water demand, it's something like an additional 152 Olympic swimming pools of water will be required going forward. When we look at CO2 emissions, significant increase. And again, that whole drought thing and the experiences we're having on flooding as well. So the extremes in the weather, again, is just going to be exacerbated as we look forward into the future. Transport. Of course, we're trying to do a lot around changing people's behaviours and the way that they move around Shropshire, but the number of cars is set to increase significantly. About 384 million more miles per annum will be people will be travelling in the future. More than 11,000 EV charging units will be required to meet the need of that change, because there's about 60,000 more cars likely to be on the road. 1.1 million more miles per day will be travelled. The number of bus journeys will increase from 2.4 million to 3.1 million. And of course, the number of rail journeys will increase significantly as well. Some of the social infrastructure, when we start to think about schools and the need for children's places, so 900 primary school places that we have, and we really need to be concerned about that as we take forward to secondary school at 500 spaces. Again, as I've touched on, the need, we've got likely to have just over 11,000 people with disabilities. 27 more GPs will need, 475 more nurses, and 146 more beds in hospitals. We're already seeing those significant strains, so what can we do about that going forward? So I've just shared with you just some of the statistics. We've got oodles more that I could have stood here today and spoken to you about, but the reason for sharing some of those statistics, and they're not an exact science, of course. We've gathered the data, we've gathered it from all sorts of areas, you know, ONS data that we know we have already, that we've gathered over many years, and some that's been shared with us by some of our partners we've been working with. But what are the givens? You know, we know about policy, we know about climate change and technological advances, and how do we respond to those? What impacts will these givens have on these projections? So what will that change be? And how can we start to impact on that? What isn't a given and what can we influence? So when we start to think about jobs, how can we intervene into those marketplaces and do something about that? How do we attract big investment into the area, and headquarters of companies into Shropshire. It's a wonderful place where we saw people move into Shropshire in COVID pandemic because they could live, work and visit here, living here, working here. But that does not necessarily mean to say the business is here. So that whole thing around business rates and all that sort of those benefits that we have as a community, as a council, that we need to make sure our place is economically viable. And how do we use this information to think about what's the best future for Shropshire? How do we all want to intervene and to shape our places, the places that we live in, the places that we want to live in, and make sure that all that wider infrastructure, which is really important to us, is delivered in the right way. So, for example, when we're thinking about where new housing should go, employment should go, it's the usual sort of situation where when we look at what that spatial policy might be, it's adding things to the edges. And I'm not professing that we should be looking for, a new town, but is that something we might want to think about differently in the future so that we get the right infrastructure in the right place rather than all the additional strains that I've just sort of talked about through the slides? And that future growth strategy that we have, how would that shape the partnership working that I mentioned earlier? How do we bring people into the fold with us and help us deliver some of the outcomes that we want, the way we want to change the place? And that joined up investment bit, bringing investment into the area, bringing skilled people into the area, developing skills with people in the area is really, really important. And what's next? And so the slide is pretty sort of small, but basically we're starting to talk to all our partners now, not just neighbouring authorities and not just wider businesses, but some of the infrastructure providers, the Environment Agency, Severn Trent, for example, when we start to think about the environment and what are their long-term plans. So if we're thinking about 2050 and they're all thinking 2100, or 2040, then how do we align all that up so that we can actually make sure that collectively we deliver the right infrastructure for Shropshire? So really important stuff. I would say, because my teams deliver it, the sexy stuff really. We all want to think ahead, don't we, about what the future might look like and how can you help us change that? So, if you have ideas, please share them with my teams, with myself, and help us shape what that future might look like. Thank you.
Telford-based mobile and IT recycling and re-commerce company Pre-Love Tech Limited has won the Startup Award at this year's prestigious eBay for Business Awards 2023. Managing Director Matt Giles said the company works tirelessly to help businesses, schools and individuals to securely and easily recycle their personal or business devices, diverting them away from landfill and helping to reduce electronic waste. Pre-Love Tech's success has been notable since their inception in 2019, winning the Best Digital Business 2022 and also being shortlisted as a finalist in this year's Mobile Industry Awards. Now, an independent Shropshire brewery has appointed a new sales director, boasting nearly 20 years of experience in the brewing industry. Hobson's Brewery, based in Cleobury Mortimer, has named Mark Suffolk as its new sales director, who, having entered the brewing industry aged 18, has held a range of senior positions at some of the UK's most notable drinks brands. In his role as sales director at Hobson's, Mark's primary responsibility will be to source new customers and avenues for growth. And finally, a Shropshire car dealership has relocated to new premises in Baston Hill as part of an exciting expansion. The Perfect Car Company has moved from Harlescott after completing the letting of Oak Garage on Hereford Road. The new premises will allow the business to add servicing to what it already offers its customers. We'll have some more business news for you later in the show. Welcome back. Now, earlier this month, Shropshire Chamber of Commerce held their business expo at Shrewsbury Town Football Club. Carl and I went along. It was great to see it so busy. Let's take a look.
Now then, let's see who I've found here. Introduce yourself and tell me a bit about the business.
Okay, my name is Amy. I'm the Director of Advanced Architectural Services. So what we offer is a solution to your exterior and your interior. We can vinyl wrap, we install externally, internally, so all your fixtures and fittings, so rather than landfill, throwing things away, we can transform the whole look of that as well. So it's all about sustainability, about your carbon footprint.
So you wrap buildings, wrap the exterior of building. How does that work then?
So vinyl wrapping the exterior of your building, basically we've recently vinyl wrapped an aluminium substrate in Telford. So we've transformed the look of the building where it was a little bit weathered. It was blue. It was built in the 70s, so it was a little bit tired. We managed to prep and prime that building and then install vinyl installation on top of that.
So do you work, where are you based then? And do you work in Shropshire very much then?
Based in Telford, although we do work up and down the country at the moment. So it's kind of trying to educate Shropshire for them to realise that it's a sustainable way of transforming the...
So what's a typical kind of customer for you then? Who could really benefit then from what you do?
Businesses could certainly benefit from this because there's lack of disruption. It's not going to disrupt, unlike paint. There's the gases in the air, there's the smell, there's the wet paint. Once we've installed, that's it, it's dry. Good to go.
So you mean in and out in a lightning flash then?
Yeah, we try to get in, be as quick as we can and not disrupt that much at all. So yeah, and it's a money saving way of doing things because rather than keep on having things redone, you get up to 10 years warranty, but it's still not going to fade like paint. It's still not going anywhere. It's not going to start peeling away. Again, with furniture, kitchens, nothing wrong with the actual kitchen itself. Vinyl wrap it, it's durable, it's strong, there's so much to choose from.
A brand new lease of life for it all.
Absolutely.
What's it been like here today for you guys so far?
It's been brilliant. The people have been really good. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I've met quite a few lovely people. Yeah.
Better leave you to go and meet some more then. Thanks for your time.
Lovely to meet you. Thanks a lot.
So I'm here with Anita and Mark from Telford College. Guys, what are we doing today?
Okay, well, what we're doing today, we're looking to engage with employers in the area to kind of promote our students, employability students who are looking to get into certain areas, logistics, business admin, that type of thing, and manufacturing. So we're looking to get those links today in order to get our students into work.
So Anita, you're looking for local businesses within Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin to get in touch with you and you can work together on this.
Definitely. If there's anybody that are looking, that have opportunities that are available, we're very, very keen to work within the local community to start to get some opportunities and our students to go through and get employment opportunities.
And they can get in touch with you via the Telford College website?
Absolutely, yes. If you go to the main college page, just click on the link and they'll be able to get in contact with us, or our contact details. You can email us on
employability@telfordcollege.ac.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you guys. I hope today's a success for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll head back to the Shropshire Chamber of Commerce Expo at Shrewsbury Town Football Club a little later in the show. Joining me in the studio now is Victoria Charnley from B4 Shropshire. Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So you are the networking queen. You're out and about at networking events. You're running B4 Shropshire. Tell me a little bit about B4 Shropshire then.
Okay, so B4 originated in Oxfordshire with our CEO Richard Rosser, who I actually worked for when I was at university. And he approached me to say that he wanted to take B4 national. So what we're doing here in Shropshire is creating a model which we can then take on, hopefully, nationwide. So the idea is taking all of the things that Richard's done in Oxford, tweaking it so it fits here in Shropshire, and hopefully building as big a community that Richard has down there.
And how's it gone so far then?
Yeah, so far it's good. We've been nearly 18 months. We were launched in June 2022 by the then High Sheriff Selina Graham. And we've had lots of support, lots of people who joined us as founding members who've then renewed. And I think coming from nowhere and no one knowing anything about us, I'm really pleased with the members that we've got on board now, and hopefully many more to come.
And what type of businesses then are joining you?
So it's anything from small one-person bands to huge multi-million organisations. Sector-wise, again, it's nice to have a variety. We try and only have at least a maximum of 3 of each sector as we're moving forward. But yeah, we have people from finance, IT, media, PR, health. So yeah, lots of different groups.
And networking for some people can be quite scary, can't it? But
yeah.
it doesn't need to be, though, does
No.
it? As I said, you're out and about, you are networking around the county at various events, and obviously B4 Shropshire. When you first started networking, how did you find it?
Well, to be honest, I had never done networking before. So my background was I was working in construction, so I didn't get out and about and network. We didn't really need to. But I think for a lot of people, it's about that immediate interaction. It's that feeling of having to stand up, say a bit about
That's
yourself.
what gets me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the pitch, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I must admit, I'm not a great public speaker, so that would petrify me. The whole thing with B4 is it's very informal. It's very relaxed. It's all about sitting with people who you want to build a relationship with, who obviously you get on well with. And we do that by creating just a relaxed atmosphere. So mainly it's breakfast, lunches, dinners, a bit of wine tasting in the evening as well. And there's no selling, there's no pitching. But what we do is encourage our members to host events. So, for example, at Weston Park, we did a lunch recently.
Which is a great venue,
It is
isn't it?
amazing.
Such a good venue.
And we were treated like royalty there because we had it in the main house in the Orangery. All of Colin's team there were amazing. The food was fantastic. But it was just very relaxed. Everyone met, chatted, and all sat down to lunch. Colin did a lovely talk about himself and the park. And then that just promoted a natural discussion afterwards. So I think it feels a lot sometimes like you've been at a nice dinner party.
Which sounds quite nice, doesn't
Which
it?
is quite nice.
It's not having to
yeah.
get up necessarily early every Thursday in the morning at
No.
7 o'clock and being at a certain location, is it?
No.
It's different to that.
No, I think we're just about to host our Platinum Quarterly Breakfast at Weston Park. And I think they'll be starting at a nice time of 9 o'clock.
And I know you're looking for some more Platinum business members, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're in Oxford at the moment. That has been Richard's focus, is on the Platinum members. And I think if we could establish more here in Shropshire and then filter down from there, I think to get that good core group initially would be really beneficial for the community here.
So it's go along, it's a friendly atmosphere.
Friendly.
There's no, as you say, hard sell
No.
or pitches or anything like that. Just
Always good food as well.
Well, that sounds quite good
Yeah.
to me. Victoria. Brilliant. Listen, thank you for having a chat about it. We'll put some details up on our website and also on the screen now if you can take a look and how people can get involved. You're going to stick
lovely.
around, aren't you? Because we're
I
going to
am.
do 90 seconds with at the end of the show.
Yep.
I'm going to be grilling you with some questions.
Interesting.
Thank you, Victoria. We'll
Thank
catch up with you
you.
a little bit.
Award-winning news, views and analysis. That's what you get with Shropshire Business Magazine. We celebrate the county's successes. We get the inside stories from our innovators and entrepreneurs, and we cover the big talking points across all corners of the county. We're proud to have been named Midlands Magazine of the Year, and proud too to be a founding partner of Shropshire Business Live TV. Download the latest edition of our magazine from our website right now and drop us a line to find out how we could be putting your company's story into our headlines.
Shropshire Live. News and entertainment for Shropshire.
Welcome back to the October edition of Shropshire Business Live TV. Now it's time to head back to the Shrewsbury Club where the ITF World Tennis Tour Budgeon W100 was taking place. Carl caught up with Dave Courtine, the Managing Director of the Shrewsbury Club, and went behind the scenes. Let's take a look.
So we've come backstage at the Shrewsbury Club here to the player zone with Dave Courtine, the man who, well, you know everything about what's happening here with this tournament. All the planning that goes into something like this, how much of a relief is it when it actually starts?
Yeah, I think I'll enjoy a beer on Sunday evening, I think is the honest answer, which is when the final comes around. But yeah, I mean, this is a 10, 11 month project to actually pull an event off like this, and it takes a huge amount of organisation, and we work really closely with Shropshire Festivals who do a great job helping us. You know, they're brilliant at putting on festivals, and this is what this effectively is. It's a tennis festival with a competition running alongside it. So yeah, it's a huge amount of effort. We love hosting it, and yeah, there's sort of, you get carried along with the kind of the spirit of the event and the excitement of the event once it actually arrives.
But also the benefit of this event to the Shropshire economy is colossal, isn't it? I mean, I know, talking to people here this morning, you can't get a hotel room in Shrewsbury for love or money at the moment.
Yeah, no, we absolutely. Mark Cooper from Visit Shropshire was saying that absolutely we've taken out all the rooms, so that's in the town, so that's excellent. And Sport England do some research, and this level event, which is the highest level event that the ITF hold worldwide, there's only 20 other cities that have an event at this level, brings about £400,000 to £450,000 worth of business into the region. We're really proud of that, and we really want to have this as an opportunity to shout about Shropshire. There's so many people coming from far afield. It's a great chance for them to experience Shropshire for the first time. And
last year, the Shrewsbury Club champion went on to become the Wimbledon champion, so no pressure this time.
Yeah. What a story, Carl. I mean, that's just wonderful. Last year we had Marketa Vondroušović, who won here and then went on to win Wimbledon. And actually what the story was before that was we also had Karolina Mukova play here, and she lost in the second round at Shrewsbury but then made the final of the French Open. So they were
tougher here then, isn't it?
Exactly.
Tougher tournament.
Exactly.
What's the best thing about being right in the heart and centre of this, this week?
I think for me, it's seeing people engage with tennis who've never actually engaged with tennis before. So people that may, because they're guests of a sponsor or one of our actual events and networking events that we put on, then come through and watch the tennis and are just amazed at the quality of play. I think everybody is always amazed at how good the quality of play is. If you've never watched tennis this close up, you suddenly realise the diverse sports or skills that you need to play that kind of sport. So I think it's getting people to understand and realise and appreciate tennis, particularly when we have the schools, and we've got 200 junior school children coming in on Friday, and we've got 124 year 10, year 11 students in on the Wednesday, and both of those will actually be experiencing tennis and seeing it for the first time. And if just a few of them capture it and want to pick up a racket, well, this event and all this hard work has been well worth it.
And then similarly, of course, it's an opportunity to tag on lots of other supplementary events during the week, isn't it? We've had the economic breakfast this morning for the business community. You've got a black tie ball, and that's raising awareness of what this facility is potentially for other local businesses as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see this as a great opportunity. We don't make money from putting this on, far from it. If anything, it costs us money to put this whole W100 event on, but the benefit for us is undoubtedly the way that it raises the profile of the Shrewsbury Club, and it gets people that wouldn't otherwise have come to the club to actually visit it, and then maybe get to see what we offer. And so for us, it's a great marketing exercise, and it builds our profile in the town and to a certain extent in the county as well.
Do you get a chance to watch much tennis during the week then or not?
Do you know, it's funny actually, the start of the week, no, and that's when some of the really interesting, you like to pick out who are the players that are going to come through, but there's so much going on at the start of the week. I'm hoping that as we get towards the end and it calms down, because you've got less matches on and less players around and less things to be looking after, so I might get to watch a bit of the semi-finals and the final. But yeah, it's great fun, and actually what I enjoy is being like we are here backstage, chatting to the players, meeting the players, and then you kind of see them later on playing at some of the bigger tournaments in the Grand Slams. You think, actually, I remember sitting having a coffee with them in the Shrewsbury Club. That's great. That's really good.
What's
fun.
Also great is when we saw a video at the business event this morning where one of the British doubles players has really embraced Shropshire life and done a corporate video, and so they love coming to Shropshire, don't they, as well, the player?
Yeah, Freya Christie was the player that did that video. She's the British number 4 in doubles, and she's had a huge amount of success success here. Actually, she's had some of her best standout performance of her career at Shrewsbury, so she's really passionate about coming back to Shrewsbury. And we also thought it was an opportunity to put a promotional video out to tell the players and the ITF and the officials and everyone else just how great Shrewsbury is and what an opportunity it is to come and visit the town.
And if they love coming, they're great advocates for keeping this event here as well, aren't they?
Absolutely. We know that the players always are talking to the LTA and the ITF about Shrewsbury and coming back. They know, there's lots of them been talking this morning about the coffee shops. There's a number of them that I know have found out through Freya and her video about the Harry Potter shop in town, so they've been going to visit that. So there's a real desire. I know the players enjoy coming here, and it's because of the welcome they get from the town and the sponsors, and hopefully from the club too, that just makes them think this is a special event and I want to come back.
Great to hear. Thanks for your time, Dave. I'll leave you to it. I'm sure you've got lots to do.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks.
Time now for some more business news. The Black Country and Marches Institute of Technology have announced a collaboration with two new Shropshire College providers. Telford College and Herefordshire, Ludlow and North Shropshire College have joined forces with the partnership in a move which it says will see much needed higher level skills in the engineering sector delivered in the Marches area. Led by Dudley College of Technology, the Black Country and Marches Institute of Technology, it aims to meet skills demands of industry by providing technical training from level 4 up to degree level with university partners. A man who's dedicated his life to the Shropshire business, public and voluntary sectors is set to become the latest trustee of a county funding organisation. Graham Wynne has joined the board of the Shropshire Community Foundation. The charity is responsible for generating investment and channeling donations to ensure they make the greatest possible impact, targeting the most prevalent issues and the most vulnerable communities in the county. And partnership working is the way forward for Shropshire's high streets, according to the high-profile visitor to the county. OJ MacDonald, who heads up the Association of Town and City Management, spoke to a first-of-its-kind seminar in Shrewsbury, which looked at reusing empty spaces in town centres. Having just returned from the World Towns Leadership Summit, he shared his broad international experience with an audience including council development officers from Shropshire and West Midlands combined authority towns, also town champions and landlords and developers as well. There's more business news online at shropshirelive.com and shropshirebusiness.com whenever you want it. Now, this time last year, Carl caught up with one of the UK's leading economists who was in Shropshire to deliver his thoughts on the state of the economy. Well, James Sproul from Handelsbanken has been back in the county again this month, speaking at a reception at Hencote in Shrewsbury to some of the bank's invited guests. Carl caught up with him and his colleague Sarah Rigby and started by asking what has changed in the last 12 months.
Gosh, I mean, a lot's changed. I think that a year ago we were expecting interest rates to be higher than they've had. We've had a peak of interest rates at 5.25%, and markets have come to expect that. And so, of course, inflation is starting to come down a lot. We were really concerned about that a year ago. Now we're seeing an end to that. And we're sort of looking forward because there's obviously new challenges that we're facing in terms of what's going on in the Middle East. Is that going to lead to a more bigger conflagration? And therefore, do we start to worry about things like are energy prices going to spike back up? So far, not so much. But clearly, that's one of those imponderables that we're going to have to face over the next few weeks is, what are the implications of this renewed crisis?
One of the things that struck me from both your presentations tonight is just how dynamic the data needs to be at the moment because things are changing so quickly.
Yeah, things are happening very, very quickly. If we move back to July, the expectation was that the Bank of England would raise rates to 6.5%. And that quickly changed after the inflation data in September, which actually that's when we saw the unexpected hold on rates from the Bank of England. And now we're only expecting that we could well be at the peak. Again, as James said, our concern is really around what happens with the Middle East, but at the moment the expectation is that interest rates could well be at the peak, although we do expect they may remain high for some time to come.
I was going to ask you about that because the Middle East crisis was touched on a couple of times tonight, and that's just another imponderable thrown into the mixture, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is, yes. And I mean, if rolling the sort of time back to February 2022, or sorry, what are we, 24? February 22. Yes, so rolling the time back to February 2022, of course, we then had the Russians' invasion of Ukraine. That wasn't unanticipated. I mean, yes, by some of the CIA and MI6, but by the markets and the rest of us, not. And what's happened as a result of that, and the unexpected way in which, frankly, Europe was really good at got its act together very quickly on building the facilities to be able to take alternative energy supplies. That was a very positive thing. I think there's some positive things as well that have happened over the last few months and years. One of them is about employment. Now, unemployment is going up, but we're not expecting it to go up to anything like the levels that we saw even just in the global financial crisis, where it peaked at just over 8%. We're thinking it's going to be under 6 at its peak. So that's a lot more people remaining employed, and I think it's a really good trend that we've seen, and ultimately will allow the UK economy to recover a little bit faster when we do see some sort of an upturn, because people won't have to find a new job. They'll already be in a job, probably just increasing their hours, increasing their pay, and that's an easier thing to do. And companies themselves recover faster from that situation instead of having to find lots of new staff members.
I think that's one of the things a lot of Shropshire businesses will really chime to from what you said, because I know that there's a real recruitment problem in Shropshire, to be honest. People are trying to find skilled staff, or they're finding maybe that the staff that are coming for interviews are feeling they're in a position maybe to dictate terms to potential employers and feel they're in the box seat a bit. Do you feel that? Do you see that around different parts of the country?
I think we do see that around the country, as there's been a shortage of skilled staff, especially with long-term sick, even from COVID. I think the main concern is around wage growth. That is still a concern, that we don't want to end up in a position like we saw in the 1970s when it escalates, that people are demanding more and more money, which pushes up inflation, and then people demand more money, and then it pushes up inflation, and you end up in a spiral. So I think that is a big concern.
But there are a lot of factors, aren't there, that are not typical factors that you would see. And you mentioned that you don't think we're maybe going to go into an actual recession at the moment. But there are a lot of factors that you wouldn't see in a time when the economy is maybe in a downturn anyway, aren't there, at the moment?
One of the factors, for instance, we see across the whole of the UK has been a ticking downward in house prices, and that's obviously something. 2/3 of the people in the UK are owner-occupiers of their own place, and the result is that when house prices start to fall, lots of people feel a little bit bruised as a result of that. Now, we think there's going to be probably about an 8% fall from peak to trough, and we're probably about halfway through that. That's in nominal terms, and ultimately you have to think, a year ago we were seeing house prices in the UK at an all-time high. And whenever you're at an all-time high, you have to ask yourself, when is the retracement? When is there going to see some sort of back to normal a bit? And we're seeing that. And actually, quite a bit more of that's also being achieved by inflation, because, of course, what we're seeing is if we see an 8% fall in nominal terms, we're seeing a larger fall because you have to add inflation to that. So more like an 18% fall in real terms on people's homes. Now, that's painful for many, but of course it also leaves homes more affordable for a lot of people, which is good. More people can climb onto the property ladder, which is a good thing. And ultimately, you look at the level that they were sitting at a year ago, and you have to say, well, that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. People remember the good times more than the bad times, don't they? Or they get used to. You also talked about a whole generation has been used to, virtually zero interest rates. I remember when I bought my first property, I think it was within 2 months of that, Nigel Lawson had that day where he put interest rates up hugely. But there's a whole generation of people that don't even know times like that exist, aren't there?
Absolutely. From March 2009, what we have seen is historically low rates, and therefore we've got a generation who just expect almost that interest rates will remain low and aren't a risk to their business. What we're seeing now is the expectation that although we may be at the peak of interest rates, that we will see interest rates remain higher for longer. And that's not just a trend in the UK, we can see that in the Eurozone and the US as well. And this basically means that now there will be a cost to borrow money. But what's good news, to end on good news, is that it's great for savers because they will actually get a return on interest on deposits, which is a very safe way to invest your money.
And it gives people more of a value to what they're doing with their money, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
One final thing, James, because I think this is really relevant to Shropshire. I was interested when you were talking about the retail spectrum and how that's changing, particularly how retail parks, you were saying, have been faring maybe better than traditional high streets. And of course, here in Shropshire, if you take the big towns, Telford and Shrewsbury out, what we've got is a lot of market towns, traditional market towns that don't have out-of-town retail parks and are a little bit maybe worried about what the future holds. I'm wondering how much you think those towns have got to perhaps reinvent themselves for the future.
Well, I think what we've seen is so the way that the statistics are broken out, they look at high streets, shopping malls and retail parks. And it shows that retail parks have been the area which has seen the footfall come back post-COVID more strongly than the other areas. And the least return has been shopping malls. And ultimately, of course, what a retail park does is it's got a good mix. It's got a good mix of parking. It's got a good mix of the right kinds of shops in terms of cafes and places you want to shop. It's got a good mix in terms of the green space. And so look at that. If you're that market town, look at that and realize that space is curated. That space is made tempting for people to come there. And you're in competition, effectively. And make it a really nice shopping experience. If you end up with a lot of vacant shops or charity shops and parking is difficult, etc., well, then don't be surprised if people decide to shop online instead. It's just easier. So people want to go where they're loved, and show them some love.
And have a USP, I guess, as well, isn't it? Independent traders versus maybe big chains and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you both for your time. Really good to see you. I'll leave you to go and explore the rest of the cellar now. So.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent. Great to be here as always.
Three individual sensors: optical, heat, and carbon monoxide, combined in one alarm for the ultimate fire and CO response. Introducing the EI3030, the next evolution in home life safety. Maximising coverage, whilst making installation simpler, easier and future-proof with the Easy Fit base. The EI3030 multi-sensor fire and carbon monoxide alarm is available to order now. Safety first. Eco first.
But it's not often that I get the opportunity to mingle with international sports stars, but that's exactly what we're doing here at the Hub at the Shrewsbury Club while this tennis tournament is underway. And Nick Jones, I asked the expert, is here. Another month, another venue.
Another month, another venue. I thought you were referring to me as the international sports star. I was wondering what I was going to have to make up.
International traveller, it's a globe trotter, I think we call you, don't we?
You can call me anything, Carl.
This is, a fantastic event. We were talking a little bit earlier about what this has actually done for the economy in terms of giving back in a very different way. I mean, hotel spaces and goodness knows what. People look at it as a sporting event, but they don't realise not only what it does for Shropshire, but the number of local organisations, like your own, that really embrace and engage with this, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dave Courtine was saying earlier there were 33 businesses that were involved in sponsoring this week, of which we're just one. But it is amazing, and all the players stay locally. Some have travelled from, one was come from Australia, I think the 4C, did he say? Amazing. There's a 14-year-old GB participant here. Absolutely brilliant to see. And last year's winner was the winner of Wimbledon as well. So it is amazing that the calibre of people they can attract. But to have this on our doorstep and for us to be able to enjoy and participate a little bit is fantastic.
What's in it from your point of view as a business? What's the motivation for getting involved in something like this, and how do you gauge how successful it is?
Some really good questions there, really. And sometimes if you look at marketing or you look at spend or branding and you look at how you get your message out there and you let people know that you're around and what you do, there's so many different strands to it, aren't there? So we have for a long time supported local good causes. We get involved in lots of charities, and we've always done it as part of our Nick Jones Wealth Planning DNA. It's something we've been passionate about. All our team members have cared about good causes, so we often let them go and do things supporting their charities, or we've done things collectively to raise money for different things over the years. And then when we've joined with Throgmorton, April 21 it is now, 2.5 years ago, it's been important to share that and actually encourage that behaviour across the larger business and the Enderby side of things, the Enderby office, and advisors across the Midlands, to be fair, already had that kind of ethos, but didn't really, I suppose they didn't have the opportunity to do much with it. So we're definitely promoting that now. We're helping the whole practice to embrace local community, whether they're in Shrewsbury or Enderby or across the Midlands.
Let's just roll back on that just a minute. 2.5 years since the actual...
Yeah. Since we studied in Ironbridge.
Rebranded. I can't believe where the time is. They say that the older you get, the faster the time goes. So I think I must be about 92 by it, to be honest. I mean, how has that 2.5 years panned out compared to maybe, the day one, you must have stood on the threshold and had a fair idea what might happen. Yeah. Has it panned out that way?
Pretty much, yeah. So we stood there in the old time. It was at Bliss Hill, and you interviewed, and we used that as part of the launch, a part of the reveal about what we were doing. And we'd had quite a bit of time business planning before that as directors, my new directors I was joining, and thinking about the future, thinking how we're going to blend the two practices together, thinking about how the key team members would be looked after and communicated with all along the journey, but making sure that everyone knew why we were doing it, everyone knew that their roles were secure and actually more worthwhile going forward with more support, more management help, and that's exactly how it's worked out, and able to help more clients, able to bring in more to our Shrewsbury team, which has been fantastic. So we've now got more team members based there than we had previously, which was always the plan, because Shrewsbury is an important hub for us. It's a mile from my home, and I'm still in the office most days. So it's very much business as usual, but with a wider support team and a wider level of expertise available amongst our 16 advisors now in-house.
And the thing is as well, I mean, we've heard a lot at this economic forum today about how some of the things that are going to be happening in Shropshire over the next few years are out of Shropshire's control, aren't they? And what's happened in the economy, since that 2.5 years that we were standing at Bliss Hill, no one could have quite predicted the roller coaster we've had, and I guess one of those things is to make sure you're adaptable, you're nimble, you can react to it quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, if you remember, we had an event that we called the 2020 Vision that was towards the end of 2019, and then the pandemic hits. And funnily enough, that wasn't involved in any of our visions, but you're right about being nimble, about adapting, and about getting on with business, getting on with, firstly, making sure everyone's okay. Are all of our team members okay starting? Making sure all clients had my personal mobile number when we closed the office for an unknown amount of time, when we all went to work from home in March that year. And it was like, okay, now then, what's the normal going forward? So even now, we've got hybrid working, we've got people sometimes that work from home because that's their role, and they can do that from home remotely. And they're still part of the team, but it's hard to engender that team when you're not even coming into the office at all. And we've got some that are in 2 days a week and at home 2 or 3 days a week. And we've got some that are full-time office-based. And it's making sure we use technology where we can. So we're using video conferencing, video meetings with clients, video meeting with our own teams across the Midlands. So we're not just pulling people to a meeting in Birmingham because we need to get together. It can be a Monday morning 10 o'clock without a horrendous commute that can be involved in getting into Birmingham. So we're using technology, but we're trying to pick and use the best bits, but preserve what made us a great team before. And we've all got the same drive to look after clients more than ever.
One of the other things that we've spoken about before, I think it was at BizFest at Wrekin College, where you were doing that experiment, getting people to write a letter to themselves and post it. And just remind me, what were you asking them?
Yeah, so that was about your sort of 1 year vision, wasn't it? What's your vision for yourself? Where will you be in 12 months' time? Writing to your future self and saying, in this 12 months, I have achieved this. So you're writing it, looking backwards, but we put them in envelopes. They're in my office. They will be mailed to people for March. That was really ago, 6-7 months ago now, and they will be mailed out to people, so they'll receive them, and then they can judge for themselves. We haven't looked at them. We haven't looked at anyone's because it's very personal, and they're not necessarily clients, so we're not working with them on that level. But actually, it's just for them to look for themselves and to sort of self-manage and see if they've achieved their objectives. Because sometimes you'll set yourself a to-do list, and we'll probably talk about this in the November session, I would imagine, about planning for next year. Because 2024 plan, I was talking to some of our developing advisors yesterday about how that annual planning looks, and to start now really with the numbers, and then look at your availability, plan in good holidays, all of that great business planning stuff, but making sure you've got balance. So taking good holidays, having good quality time with loved ones, and don't just become a busy fool and then look around and you've got no one at home because they've all cleared off. It's making sure that everyone's on the journey with you, and then you can share the rewards, because you will have rewards if you work hard.
But also sometimes, if you take that letter to yourself in March as an example, being able to take stock and just have 5 minutes and remind yourself what was happening 6 months ago and how different it might be, because you don't realise just how much your life changes. Maybe it speeds up, or your priorities are different. You need to take a step outside of yourself and look back at yourself, don't you? And that's difficult sometimes.
Planning the time to plan is as important as doing it itself. So actually sectioning it in, getting it in. I do it every 90 days personally, because 90 days, 3 months, you can make some massive changes. It's enough time to create some new habits. It's enough time to get rid of some old habits that might have crept in since the previous time you sat and reviewed things, and you can just do some course corrections. So if you're driving from now, sitting here today, and you're going to drive to Birmingham, you're going to use the car. Tick the box. If there's a bit of traffic jam, you're not going to say, I'm not going to go, or I'm going to use the train, because why would you do that? I'm going to get out the car and start walking. You wouldn't do that. So you make adjustments along the way to make sure you still get to your destination. And the equivalent of taking a year's plan and doing it 90-day chunks, you can actually be in control, and things will happen that you can't plan. That's the last 2 or 3 years have absolutely proven that, haven't they? And there'll be more examples coming forward. Part of this morning's session talking about AI and how you're going to integrate that into businesses, how to create your team to be more efficient and not replace your team, but get a team of 10. I was talking to Paul, the main speaker, afterwards, and he said, well, it's not about getting rid of your 10 admin support, it's about getting your 10 admin support working, producing the work of 100 people and magnifying the impacts, and that's where it gets really exciting. And that kind of thing is in your plan to tweak and consider it, but it will never be the finished thing because it's going to be evolving along the way. And then it's personal and your health objectives, if it's holidays, if it's anything that you set for your own objectives, get them down. If you write them down, you're more likely for your brain to actually take it on board and you're more likely to achieve it. If you share it with somebody else, you're more likely to achieve it because you've then got a sense of responsibility and accountability. So we have groups within the practice that work on a Best Year Yet programme every 90 days, sit down, plan it out, and then you look back and did I achieve that? Yes or no? Don't beat yourself up if you didn't manage a big, hairy, scary goal because maybe you've gone quite a long way towards it, just not quite got there yet. But you've got closer to it than you would have done if you hadn't written it down and thought about it.
I'm a big believer in actually vocalising what you're planning to do because then you actually put a bit more pressure on yourself to say, right, okay, I've set myself a public challenge now, I'm going to have to motivate myself to do it.
If it's wishy-washy, it's unlikely to happen.
There's plenty that's wishy-washy in my planning as well, Nick, to be honest. Now listen, before we get together for next month's show, we're going to have had the autumn statement, aren't we? 22nd of November. Is it something that's on the radar for many of your clients at the moment? Do you get many questions about it? What do you think? Is it going to be a big deal?
There's so much uncertainty at the moment politically. I think the issue is that if you bear too much of what might happen in your current planning, then you'll either end up frozen and not do anything, or you'll end up doing things that will end up not being relevant anyway. So we generally don't panic before an autumn statement, before a budget statement. We don't get things done in advance, unless it's rules that are currently in place, tax planning wise, using pension allowances, using ISA allowances, use your capital gains tax allowance, which is reduced but still worth having, those sorts of things. If you're a business owner that's got a business and you're at the point of selling and you're looking at making sure you get the entrepreneur relief, business asset disposal relief at 10%, that might be under the microscope. But we've said that now for a number of years. So there's been a few deadlines that have been and gone, and then it's not been an issue, but people were worried and panicking and getting everything over the line. So business as usual, but be sensible. If there are some quick wins, take account of them now and get them done with good advice. Either with an accountant or a financial advisor, someone that you trust. But don't do things for the hell of it and then repent after, because we don't know. And politically, it's turmoil, isn't it? We've had the conference parties. Very little detail come out about what anybody's going to do about anything. No manifestos as yet, but they're going to come soon. Because if we're talking about a budget any time from spring onwards, an actual election any time from spring onwards, then they need to get some detail together quite quickly. And it's all about point scoring at the moment because everyone's desperate for votes.
Yeah, they don't want to put anything on paper that they've then got to justify or hold themselves to account for. Yeah. Should we go and show the professionals how it's done? Should we go and have a game of tennis?
Shall we? Yeah, you're going to serve on me?
I'll toss you for it.
Okay.
After you, sir.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Cheers, Carl. Thank you.
Great always to hear from Nick Jones in our Ask the Expert slot. Now, earlier on in the show, we went to Shropshire Chamber of Commerce's Expo, which was taking place earlier this month at Shrewsbury Town Football Club. There was some safari networking going on. It sounds quite interesting. Let's find out more about that and see who else we found to chat to.
Now I'm crouching down with the team from Nuffield Health today. You're very interactive, your stand today, aren't you? Tell us what you're doing here.
So we're doing blood pressure checks and blood glucose checks. It's just a general measure of your health, really, just to catch people who might not be in the realms of normal.
And Ruth Ross, the Chief Executive of Shropshire Chamber, has very gamely offered to be the guinea pig here. So looking forward to this?
I am, apart from the prick. But I think it's good because you need to know whether your levels are healthy or not, because if there's something that you can do now, it's better than later on.
Start the process then. Let's tell me what you're doing here.
Measure. I'm going to take a tiny little bit of blood, put it onto a test strip, and it'll tell me what this lady's blood glucose is. All right? So
this the painful bit, is it? It's the bit where you have to close your eyes or look away or sort of. No.
Okay. So I'm just getting the machine ready.
And then you get what, an instant response to you, an instant result.
And you get an instant result, yeah. So this is the instrument of torture that's gone wrong. That's not typical, isn't
This is good. We've got an audience here. Everybody's watching to see what's going on, so no pressure whatsoever.
So now
Here we go.
Shall I do this hand? I'm going to just get all the blood down to the end of her finger. And you just relax.
So what you're doing there is just squeezing and sort of...
Squeezing the blood so it's at the end of the finger. This is going to give it a little stab. Sharp scratch. There we go.
You're very brave.
So I'm going to waste the first bit of blood that comes out onto there. And the second bit, I'm going to get the machine, and you have to place it right on the end so it goes up the strip. Like
Oh, there you go. So that's gone, made a nice stream and gone straight into the machine.
The stream's gone up, and then the numbers will count down, and it will tell us that you're 6.4, which is perfect.
Is that good?
That's absolutely fine. Well within the normal range.
What can this show in terms of a test in terms of and what's the range of numbers and?
The range is between 4 and 7 millimoles of sugar per litre of blood, and if you're higher, it can show that you might be pre-diabetic, and diabetes is obviously quite a serious, nasty disease. So if you can catch it early and do something about it, then that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
But you're good to go, Ruth. That's good.
I'm good to go for another donuts now.
Yes. You're free to go for a donut.
Yes.
Excellent, and a plaster.
Yeah, it should be all right. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for the demonstration.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, Kelly, is it safe? Is it safe to be?
Fine, Paul.
I'm glad to hear
Don't
it.
upset me.
Talk to me. I never do that. Talk to me about what's happening here today, then.
Well, as a chamber, we love to bring businesses together, to network, make connections is key. So we thought, why not link it with something really fun? So we're running our first speed networking session with the safari theme. So with your animals, connections, what more of a fun way? We've got our dung bucket, our safari snacks, you name it, we've got it.
Feeding time. Fantastic. It's
I know.
gone down really well, hasn't it?
It has, and everyone's got involved. As like I said, we want something to be fun, something people are going to remember, but the key is they will walk away and they will meet lots of new connections in one room.
I shall definitely remember the costumes, the atmosphere, and the people. Definitely.
Fantastic, thanks, Carl.
And the award for the brightest coloured backdrop of the day goes to Sean Carville of Clicking Mad. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a bit about your business for people that don't know.
Yep, we are a web development company, web design, web development and website promotion, specifically making sure we get lots more visitors to our clients' websites so the website can do their job.
And you're offering, as the banner says there today, a free website review for any company that thinks that maybe it's time for a bit of a refresh, is that?
Yeah, the idea is you've got a website, you're not quite sure if it's doing what it should do, or it's not perhaps bringing the inquiries you wanted to have. We can look to see why that is. We'll do it for free, give you some advice. You can get your existing developers to do it for you if you want, or we can do it for you as well. So it's a genuine free service.
Do people not know what they don't know? Is it that sort of simple from a website point of view? They think their website is doing everything that it's capable of doing, but they don't know what more could be possible, is that?
Yeah, the bottom line is you only see what you can see, and if you don't understand the statistics and information behind it, you can't make any decisions about it. That's where we come in, and we can make sure you have a much better understanding of the performance of the site and where it not only fits into your business, but where is it going to take your business in the future. And as I say, the free review is the first step of that. You can then decide to make the changes if you want to, and I think we can, well, basically, we can certainly make sure we can provide you with good quality advice. That's the key.
What sort of proportion of your clients are in Shropshire then, or do you work much further afield?
We have clients right across the UK, and we used to have them across Europe. We've been going for 23 years, and we've had all sorts of clients in all sectors. We've got about, I suppose, 25 clients in Shropshire now. The majority are outside Shropshire, and we need Shropshire to raise its game. That's what I'm here for. That's why we're supporting Shropshire. We're a patron of the Chamber as well. We really want Shropshire businesses to grab the opportunities the web can provide, and we're there to genuinely help them do that.
Great to see you.
And you.
Speak to you soon.
Thanks, Carl.
It was great to see so many people at the Shropshire Chamber of Commerce Expo. That's just about it from our October edition of Shropshire Business Live TV. We're back next month. Carl will be back in the studio, and we're going to be finding out about some of the challenges facing Shropshire's high streets. But before I go, just a reminder about Sbltv knowledge. If you've got some knowledge to share, maybe to the Shropshire business community, some hints or tips, or maybe you're looking for some hints and tips about business, how do you file your accounts? Some other information maybe, sbltvknowledge.co.uk is the place to go. And don't forget, if you want to catch up on Shropshire Business Live TV at any time, you can head to our YouTube channel or sbltv.co.uk. And we're always looking for you to get in touch with us as well, maybe with your business news too. Now then, it's time for our 90 seconds with. Earlier on the show, we had Victoria Charnley from B4 Shropshire, the networking group. I've grilled her with a few questions. Let's take a look. See you next month. How do you think your colleagues would describe you?
Positive.
Best thing about the Shropshire business community?
Really lovely people.
Your greatest strength in the workplace?
Again, positivity.
Qualities you look for in colleagues?
Organised, be nice.
Pet hates in the office?
My office is my home, so probably the dishwasher.
Biggest decision you've ever made in your career?
I suppose starting B4.
Favourite social media platforms?
LinkedIn, sadly.
Biggest challenge in your job?
Organising my time efficiently.
Things you wish you'd have known when you were younger?
Life's too short.
Early bird or night owl?
Oh, a night owl, definitely.
Gym workout or TV box set?
TV box set.
Favourite film?
Ooh, Pulp Fiction.
If you were an emoji, what would it be?
Smiley face.
Best band you've ever seen live?
Madonna.
Glass of wine or spinach smoothie?
Oh, a glass of wine.
Dream dinner party guests, dead or alive?
Hercule Poirot.
Your proudest achievement?
Having my children.
Shrewsbury or Shrewsbury?
Oh, I'd say both, but generally Shrewsbury.